Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update on the cryptocurrency space. We are going to start things off with the chart of the total cryptocurrency market, excluding Bitcoin. And I'm going to explain why it is I'm looking at this specifically, but it paints a very bullish picture of what is to come for this industry, this market. And I want to start off on a high note before we go to a low one in regards to what France are about to inflict on their citizens. Don't you just love your governments that actually are meant to serve you, by the way, not the other way round? I feel like in the West, we are increasingly becoming, and I say the West more broadly, we're increasingly becoming almost slaves to our governments, which is a very interesting concept. I'm going to move on from that before we do some serious damage. We're also going to be looking at the fact that the US government has moved a load of funds to Coinbase. Everybody panicking about this, of course, because fear sells as a headline. However, people forget that the US Marshal Service, which would be in charge of custodying the seized funds from Silk Road, are partnered with Coinbase as a custodian. Then we've got news out of Apple in regards to Coinbase. We're seeing a bit of a frenzy in the altcoin sector. Of course, in fact, we're situated in the majority of them. If you want to get on board that journey, first thing you got to do is subscribe to the channel and keep up to date with our videos, certainly our evening videos where we dive into the altcoin projects we like. Hedera is something like 700% off its lows, and I'm hundreds of percent up. I have a community of people that are also in the same boat, and if you want to embark on that journey, do consider becoming a Patreon. But South Korea is really sort of leading retail crypto trading, and it's hit $18 billion, beating their local stock market. And actually, this is a trend I think we're going to see continue. And we've also got news in regards to Trump's new SEC pick. Now, we looked at a number of likely candidates, but it looks like within the next sort of 48 hours, we are going to have that pick, and that's going to have big ramifications for the industry. It could be a real driver of it. So let's start off on a high note, and let's take a look at the total cryptocurrency market cap excluding Bitcoin. Now, when I stumbled upon this industry, I went full force behind it with my libertarian ideologies that Bitcoin very much aligned with. However, I'm now of the opinion, and I'm not going to explain how I've ended up here because it's a really long process of events and watching things unfold that have taken me to this conclusion, that actually instead of what this industry spawned out of, Bitcoin, and this idea to provide an alternative currency system to the one that we currently have, the fiat systems, instead of this industry doing that, it's going to do the opposite and actually enable the fiat systems. And that's going to be the real use case when it comes to the cryptocurrency industry. If Bitcoin was any threat to the United States dollar or its hegemony, it wouldn't exist. In fact, Trump came out yesterday and threatened the BRICS nations in regards to their own currency. So we're looking at everything excluding Bitcoin because I've always been more in the altcoin sector. Many of our altcoins are now outperforming Bitcoin in regards to when we bought back in January 2023. I could have been a lot more intricate with it, but we've largely been right on taking that bet, and we've always said altcoins will outperform Bitcoin. If you look at where we are, we've only just broken out of a high that was set in the bear market here. And actually the bulk of this move, the industry nearly sort of 8x'd in the last bull market without any institutional adoption or anything of the sort after breaking out here. And we're not even in new all-time highs for our industry as a whole. I mean, the industry went on a 4x after new all-time highs. Now, could you imagine, given where some of your altcoins are and just a 4x, some of them I think are still legitimately going to be doing hundreds of percent and thousands of percent, and potentially, I would hesitate that by the end of this bull market, we'd have had altcoins that would have 100% plus. I mean, sometimes I like to just come out and give like macro views on this. Ultimately, we've got also a confluence of technical patterns that take us higher. We've got this inverse head and shoulders that's just triggered on a big amount of volume. Whether you get a retest and then continuation is still to be seen. But when you look at the total, including Bitcoin, we've still got targets for this. Total 3, others, which everything outside the top 10, of course, Bitcoin, we very much know the trajectory for that. I am watching for some sort of a squeeze on Bitcoin on the daily. Let's drop down to an 8-hourly or a 4-hourly. I do think this might set up some sort of continuation just like this did, and that target was met. However, we shall see. Whichever way you look at this space technically, it's an amazing picture that's being painted, and certainly fundamentally, we've got an insane one on the back end of Trump's victory. And yesterday, we actually did look at, despite all the events that have taken place, it was kind of very much prophesied that the cryptocurrency market was going to be in a maturing stage in 2025. We've got some bad news now, guys, I'm afraid. Certainly if you're French. It just keeps coming, doesn't it? France to impose taxes on unrealized capital gains for Bitcoin. Now, I'm not going to play this. I don't speak French. I'm undoubtedly sure that we've got quite a few French followers. But essentially what they're looking to do is provide unrealized capital gains tax on Bitcoin. So if you are 100K up on your Bitcoin, they'll be able to come to you and say, okay, this is your holdings. We're going to take this amount off you. So you're going to have to sell it to give it to us. They're not the first nation to do this, certainly within the EU. And I'm sure they won't be the last. And remember, the game here is all about keeping the crabs in the bucket. And your governments aren't going to provide you or allow for a tool that is going to see you escape that bucket, at least in any kind of meaningful way, talking about the population and the percentage of it. They're not going to arm you with those tools or allow those tools to exist because ultimately they don't want a load of rich, independent, free-thinking individuals. So bad news for France. We will be following this. We did have news also. Was it the Netherlands? It was one of them. It wasn't the Netherlands. Belgium, perhaps, doing something similar. There was one of them actually looking to provide an exit tax to their citizens. We also had news, obviously, that Italy are imposing a 52% capital gains tax. There's no sort of word on what the percentage is going to be here, but if you are French, do look out for this. And of course, in the UK, for example, I'm kind of dreading what might be to come, certainly given the government's recent actions. We had news yesterday. It was around about 2 billion. So they initially sent $963 million worth of Bitcoin, then 2 billion. The US government moved it to Coinbase. Now, you'll remember that the US Marshal Service, which would have been in charge of holding the funds confiscated from the likes of Silk Road, which is where these funds were moved from, or where they came from initially, they partnered with Coinbase recently. And actually, this is likely them just moving them to Coinbase's custodial services to be custodied, not to be dumped, certainly with talks of Bitcoin reserves, etc. This seems very unlikely that actually they're going to be dumping onto the market, and I wouldn't really worry about that. And even if they did, it's largely going to get gobbled up at the rate that the ETFs and everything else are accumulating. We had news also related to Coinbase yesterday that Coinbase now allows users to purchase cryptocurrency with Apple Pay. All of the large institutions in the world are going to get on board with the crypto space and actually look to facilitate and enable it. That's absolutely going to happen. We had news, the altcoin sector has been doing extremely well, that South Korea's retail crypto trading has hit $18 billion, which has beat their local stock market. The boomers might be slow on uptake. South Korea are clearly leading the charge. We are just getting started. And he's talking about 120 to 150K in this bull run. I actually think it's going to be significantly higher. And some of the coins that were zealously accumulated, obviously XRP, Dogecoin, we've got ENS, which is Ethereum name service, I think. Interesting one. And of course, HBAR, which is and has been, it's certainly now my largest position, but it has always been my biggest bet in regards to the cryptocurrency space. And of course, we have news that the new president of the United States, Donald Trump, is essentially set to, as early as tomorrow, and this is from Fox Business, or where it was initially reported from, pick the new SEC chair. And this has grave ramifications for the cryptocurrency industry as a whole that has largely been prohibited as a result of Gensler's tyrannical regime. And we've looked at Brian Brooks, we've looked at a few of them, we've looked at the former CFTC chair. We think he's a great pick. There's a lot of Ripple and XRP kind of connections there with a lot of them. But if it's Brian Brooks, for example, he's on the board of the Hedera Foundation, the HBAR Foundation, which would be very interesting. So there's a lot going on. I can't help but think it's Hedera ripping because of that crossover and potentially knowing something in terms of likelihood and likeliness. I don't know. There's a lot going on, but honestly, guys, it's an unbelievable time to be in the space. Going back to the total sort of two, we've got a great time ahead of us. The bulk of the bull market typically happens when Bitcoin dominance rolls. We derived a bullish narrative actually from BTC Dom being as high as it is, because historically, Bitcoin dominance in terms of a time frame, let's put dominance on here, has taken around about 224 days to roll. And that's been the case this cycle also. It's really starting to roll now. And ultimately, that's going to permission the broader space. There's a lot that you can get in regards to insight when it comes to BTC Dom, which is royally rolling now. And alt season, in my opinion, we're really in the first innings off. And if you're sort of looking at your portfolio and you're going, wow, there's a lot more of that to come. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Have fun getting rich, and I'll see you all in the next one.